Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and this is the new Genesis G70 and I'm here at its UK media launch. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that Genesis are a brand new brand here in the UK, but they were actually here back in 2015 with the Hyundai Genesis Saloon. Unfortunately, that car flopped because it was going against the main three German rivals and it didn't really have the badge to compete with them. So Genesis went back to the drawing board, re-evaluated their cars and built up their range. Now they've made it big in the US and they're coming back to Europe and the UK for round two. And this time they're definitely bringing some metal with them, one of which is this, the new G70. And I've got it for a couple of hours now and I'm going to find out, well, what my first impressions are of it. When it comes to styling, you cannot deny the fact that the G70 is a very good looking car. In fact, with this colour combination with the black alloy wheels and the blue metallic paint, it does remind me a bit of a Jaguar XE, and that's no bad thing because the new XE is a very good looking saloon. In fact, it doesn't look like its German rivals, which is a good thing if you are after something a little bit different. You have got the distinctive quad lights, you've got this wonderful massive Genesis grille. Now granted, it's not going to be to everyone's desire and taste, however I do think it looks really good, and considering that the modern trend now is to have massive grills, well, if you can't beat them, join them, just not in the way of the BMW 4 Series. But all in all, I actually think that the G70 is a really good looking car. It's got wonderful proportions, and in this colour configuration, oh boy does it stand out, particularly on a sunny day like this. Now I haven't got the G70 for that long, so let's have a quick look at that interior before we go for a drive. Sat in the front of the G70, you are presented with a very functional and very comfortable interior. It actually feels very well built in here as well. Now in terms of the overall design, I don't think this feels as special as the GV70 SUV. In fact, this feels much more built to rival the likes of the BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class and Audi A4. And as a result, it has got the same kind of layout and it does feel as though it would enjoy its life on the M25 and M1, but that's no bad thing. Now firstly, these seats are very comfortable and there's a huge amount of adjustment to them, and also with the steering, so getting the perfect driving position is easy. Interior quality is really good in here as well. So we've got soft touch plastics on top of the dash, we've got leather on the main part of the dash here as well, and also soft touch plastics on top of the doors. Now there is a little bit more hard plastic in here compared to the GV70, but they do feel of a good quality and should stand the test of time. I do like the fact as well we've got a little bit of metallic trim in here just to liven up the cabin and give it that sporty look. This is the sport line after all. Cubby spaces are not too bad in here as well. We've got some relatively decent sized door bins. They're not lined with any fabric, but you can get a medium sized bottle of drink in there. Then ahead of the gear lever we got a wireless charging pad, but we've also got a USB input as well as a 12-volt socket, which is very handy. Then we have got a couple of cup holders just to the side of the gear select lever, and they have got a couple of grippers in them to hold a bottle in place. But I do like where they're positioned because it does mean that you can rest your arm there for a long journey and you're not going to bang any bottles that are resting there. And then underneath the armrest we have got a bit of additional space, and we've also got an additional USB charging input, so that is actually really handy. And then we've got the glove box, which is of a decent size and it is actually lined with fabric, so loose items shouldn't rattle around in there. But in a typical Hyundai Kia tradition, the book pack is quite thick and does take up a little bit of space, but it is still functional, and actually I do like the fact it locks as well. Then we got the main infotainment system, which is a touchscreen, and there is no rotary dial in order to operate it whilst you're driving. It is all done via touch, which can make it a little bit tricky whilst you're on the move. However, just below the centre air vents we have got some home shortcut buttons, and we've also got a little rotary dial there for your volume, which is very handy. Now when it comes to things like the dual zone climate control, it is all done via physical buttons and rotary dials, so you don't have to operate it via the touchscreen, which I do appreciate and like. And on this particular trim we have got heated as well as ventilated front seats, so that's going to be very nice when I take this car for a drive. But all in all, it's actually a very nice, comfortable and pleasant interior. It just doesn't feel quite as special as the GV70, but you can tell that the G70 has been designed to take on the German 3, and To be honest, it's still very comfortable, well put together, and should do a good job in taking them on. Sat in the back of the G70, it's actually not too bad back here. Now that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a reasonable amount of knee room, and headroom is not too bad either. However, I think it could be a bit tight for 6-footers. You'll definitely have to wait for the shooting brake if you want to get taller passengers sat in the back here. Cubby spaces are not too bad either. We've got some relatively okay sized door bins. You can get a small bottle of drink in there. We've got your aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats, and also we have got an armrest here to pull down with a couple of extra cup holders. And I like the fact that they're at the front here, so you can rest your arm on a longer journey, which is really handy. Then just behind the centre console we have got here a couple of vents, and we've also got an additional USB charging input, which is a bit disappointing. I would like to be able to be an extra one, so if you've got two kids back here, they can both charge their mobile devices. Now speaking of kids, we have got ISOFIX supports on the outer seats, and what I like as well is that all you have to do is press on it and you can actually get straight in and affix a child seat, so there's no removing plastic covers and possibly losing or breaking them, so that I really do like. But all in all, it's actually not too bad here in the back of the G70. I could possibly see myself doing a long journey back here, but any taller passengers might feel a little bit cramped. Now the windows are of a decent size, and what I do like is they do allow a good amount of light in. So yeah, sat back here, it's not too bad. So let's have a little look at that boot. Opening the boot on the G70 presents you with 330 litres of space, which is not too bad for this class of car. What I like as well is that it is a nice wide square opening, and actually there's very little load lip to navigate, so getting any suitcases in there should be pretty easy. It's not completely devoid of features. We have got some sturdy tethering hooks and a couple of little cubby spaces to put additional items, as well as a bit of extra space underneath the boot floor. Only disappointing thing is I can't find a 12-volt socket, and that's a little bit surprising. But other than that, it's not too bad, and if you need to get any longer items in, you should be able to get the rear seats folded nearly flat. But that's enough of looking at the practicality side of this G70. I haven't got it for long. Let's go for a drive. So once you get driving in the G70, first impressions are really good. It's actually a very comfortable car to be in, and in refinement levels are not too bad either, although you could probably hear a little bit of tyre roar as I'm driving. Visibility is actually really good. The A-pillars are not that thick, so I've not found myself looking around them at any junctions. The wing mirrors are of a really nice decent size, and they don't give off any wind noise. And actually, looking over my shoulder, I've got a relatively thin C-pillar, so it actually means I don't have much of a blind spot, which is a huge bonus. And then looking at the back of the G70 is absolutely fine, even though this is a saloon car. So again, first impressions of this new G70 are very positive. I think the Germans might have another rival to contend with. Now, trim levels in the G70 range are just like the GV70. There are three to choose from. There's premium line, there's luxury line, and then there is sport line. And I have got the sport line, which I actually really like. I love the sporty features and sporty paraphernalia on the exterior and interior of the car. I also love things as well that you do get 19-inch alloy wheels with the sport line, and that will aid with driving comfort, particularly if you do long journeys. And as I've got the diesel version, that's probably what you're going to do if you've got this configuration. But in terms of spec to choose, well, I'd have to live with this for a week in order to make a decision. But if you are after driving comfort, going for the Sportline version with those smaller alloy wheels will definitely pay off. When it comes to engines in the G70 range, just like the GV70, there are two to choose from, one petrol and one diesel. But unlike the GV70, where you get a 2.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, it is just a 2 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And the diesels though are the same. You do get a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged diesel with about 200 brake horsepower in this particular car. So if you like doing a lot of long journeys and spending time on the motorway, this could definitely be the car for you. And in terms of performance, it's actually the perfect amount of power. I mean, yes, it's not going to beat the sporty versions of BMW's, for example, M340D, but in terms of everyday driving, this is absolutely fine. And when you set off, yes, you can hear a little bit of diesel grumble, but when it settles, you can't hear it at all. It's actually a very refined cruiser, and that's something I do like about it. Now, I should mention that the G70 is rear-wheel drive only. There's no all-wheel drive option available, and you have got an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and that's basically what you get on every Genesis. And as a gearbox itself, it's absolutely fine. It goes through the gears nice and smoothly. Yes, if you're a bit hesitant on the accelerator pedal, you can catch it off guard, but for the most point, for everyday driving, it's absolutely fine. And if you put it into manual mode, you can use the flappy pedals on the back of the steering wheel, but for the most part you're just going to drive around with it in drive and let it do its thing. So what's the ride and handling like in the G70? Well, ride-wise, it's been absolutely fine. It deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. I do recommend the Sportline if you are after a comfortable car, and I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive to go for the sportier one for the more comfortable one, but if you go for the premium or the luxury, you do get larger alloy wheels. So with this Sportline, you've got 19-inch alloy wheels, and I actually think they're absolutely lovely. Deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. Yes, some of the bigger potholes and manhole covers do boom and resonate into the cabin, and just like the GV70, I have noticed on a couple of occasions going over a cattle grid or a couple of certain kind of manhole covers where they do rattle, the noise from that rattle doesn't come through the floor, it seems to kind of come through the window, and it's a bit weird. There's kind of like a patch here where there's no sound isolation, and as a result you can just hear that sound a little bit crisper than you would do in other cars. It's not a massive issue or at all. I mean, it's just something that I have noticed whilst driving the G and GV70. But in terms of everyday driving and ride in the G70, it's absolutely fine, and it is a very comfortable car. I could easily do a couple hundred miles in this G70 and feel relaxed coming out the other end. When it comes to refinement levels, the G70 is actually a very refined cruiser. There's very little wind noise coming from the A-pillars or the wing mirrors, and once the engine settles down you can barely hear it, but as you can probably hear now, the main intrusion into the cabin is tyre roar, and I'm driving over what seems to be a resurfaced bit of road, and you can just hear that kind of tyre roar drone entering the cabin. But it's not really that bad. I mean, once you get past it, you should be absolutely fine. And also as well, you can have the stereo on or a conversation with your passenger, and that will also get rid of that tyre roar, or at least not make you think of it. But in terms of refinement overall, I'm actually really impressed by it. So what's the handling like in the G70? Well, it's actually really nice. It's very responsive. There's actually a decent amount of feel of coming through the wheel as well, and unlike the GV70, which I kind of felt, you know, was more of a comfortable cruiser, in the G70 it's actually got a decent amount of drivability about it. I mean, there's a part of me thinking you could whack a V6 under the bonnet, and I do believe you can get a V6, not in the UK, but it would actually be a very sporty saloon car, and it'd have enough poke to put a smile on your face. But I've been very impressed. I mean, the steering is light, but there's a good amount of communication through it. It's a doddle to park. It's so easy to whip around the corners here on this B road, or A road I should say, and yeah, it does put a smile on your face. Even though I've got a diesel with 200 brake horsepower, it does feel really nice, although it's probably not as sharp as say a BMW 3 Series. Yeah, it's a very competent drive, this Genesis G70. I do like it, and yeah, it does exactly what you want it to. I am impressed. So what are my thoughts on the G70 here on its UK media launch? Now, as I said, I've only got this car for a couple of hours, so I'm not really doing a proper review of it, but first impressions are really positive. It's great to see Genesis back in the UK, and it's actually great to see them come back with a nice range of cars, not just a large saloon car to take on the Germans. They've got a nice variety of vehicles, 2 saloons granted and 2 SUVs, but there will be a shooting break of the G70 coming along at the end of 2021. So if you want more practicality from your G70, that will be a car to go for. And I know it's a car that's annoying the Americans because they are not getting it, and it does look really sexy. Now there is another downside that you're probably thinking, and that's down to the engines. We got one petrol and one diesel, but we haven't got any hybrids, whether they be mild or plug-in. And that's because by 2025, Genesis will be a fully electric brand. So they're not really pushing hybrids and plug-in hybrids as of yet, because there's no need to. Now we have got the G80 plug-in, or should I say electric G80, come in the next year or so, and we've also got the GV60, which is a fully electric car and the bespoke electric car as well, and that's going to be coming in 2022. And these are two very exciting cars to look forward to. I mean, I know I'm looking forward to them as well, especially the GV60, because that looks really, really quirky. But I am, as I said, glad to see that Genesis are back in the UK. I think now they have got what it takes to compete with the Germans. You're not going to drive this and think of Hyundais and think of Kias. You will think of Genesis as its own brand, and it is doing its own thing, which I really like as well. And the technology that you see in the G70 and the GV70 will filter down into Kia and Hyundai, so that is another bonus if you're not able to spend the kind of money on a Genesis car. But then again, these aren't really that expensive when compared to some of their rivals, and they are hugely packed full of kit, and that's another bonus to the Genesis brand. But as a first attempt, or should I say second attempt, back in the UK and Europe, I'm really liking the G70. I think personally I would go for the shooting brake. I love that estate look, and I would like that little bit of extra practicality just to kind of chuck my dog in the boot. But yeah, the G70 I am hugely impressed with, and also I'm looking forward to see how Genesis get on in the UK as a brand, because the way they look after their customers is going to be different to other brands out there, and that's again something else I'm very much looking forward to seeing, and seeing how the brand develops as time goes by. So a final thing I'll mention about Genesis, because of them coming back to the UK, is what you get for them free of charge, or should I say included with the car. So you do get a 5-year unlimited mileage warranty. That's actually really good for this segment of car, particularly if you do lots of motorway driving. You also get 5 years free servicing. You get 5 years of map updates on the vehicle as well. Again, that's something you don't see in many other, if not every other car brand. Usually it's around 3 years and then you got to pay for it, and that's when it kind of costs a couple £100, and that's not something you really want to pay. And then you end up using things such as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And there's also just the fact as well that Genesis are an online manufacturer now in terms of sales, in terms of after sales as well, but they put you first. So when it comes to servicing, they'll collect your car, they'll leave a car there for you if you need to go out, and they'll deliver your car back at the end of the day. Little things like that are what show Genesis ahead of the competition, and it makes it very personal, and it makes the experience about you, and that's something I've not seen in hardly any other manufacturer or any other brand when it comes to the sales or after sales experience. Granted, I have worked in sales and after sales, and I've done a little bit as a driver, and yes, it's kind of putting the customer first, but the way Genesis are doing it is a very different way to the way I used to do it. So that's something I am looking forward to seeing. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what Genesis do as they go forward, as they develop and become a more established brand here in the UK. And this G70 is a brilliant car in which to start that assault and taking on the big boys from Germany, not to mention Jaguar and Volvo. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my review of this new Genesis G70 on its UK media launch. If you've got any questions about the car at all, please put them down in the comment section below. I will do my utmost to answer them, even though I've only had the car for a couple of hours or so. Of course, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. Of course, I'm on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and always advise you follow me on there for additional content, including live videos and still images of events like this. But guys, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all wearing masks and maintaining your social distancing and looking after yourselves, and I will catch you all in the next video. So take care everyone, stay safe, and bye-bye.